gram stain is like huge on this test. Like, the biggest thing ever. So it's good that we go over it. Okay, but so he will tell you in the class, don't worry about being very detailed. I've told you this like a million times. Be super detailed as you can be. So anything like, when we're talking about the gram stain, bacteria or viruses? Bacteria. What else do you guys know about bacteria? The cell wall. And what are we dyeing in this? We're staining the cell wall, right? So if I were you, I'd be like, okay, I'm talking about the gram stain, which has to do with the cell wall. I should prove to him that I understand what the cell wall is made out of as well. So be super detailed. Don't just say steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I would go way into it, okay? So gram stain, first of all, what she said, bacteria or viruses? Bacteria. And what are the two kinds of bacteria? Okay, so let's review that. It's from like the first couple days. Is there any such thing as a gram-positive virus? No. So we're only talking about, you would only gram stain, or even stain in general. There are lots of different kinds of stains. But we'd only do it to bacteria. Why would I not stain a virus?
It's too small.
Yeah. What does that have to do with?
The light just passes through and it doesn't bounce on.
Okay, so there are two kinds of microscopes, right? The light microscope and the electron. Which one do I look at a virus under?
Electron.
Yeah, can you see color in an electron microscope?
No.
So even if you did somehow stain it, you couldn't be able to see what you're looking at, right? Then the second thing is, what structure specifically are we dyeing?
In the bacteria?
The peptidoglycan in the bacteria. Do viruses have peptidoglycan?
No.
What do they have again?
Envelopes.
They sometimes have an
Some
envelope. Capsid.
Capsid.
Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so those are just some differences of why we wouldn't do that. Now, if you go to the hospital or any lab or anything where they're trying to diagnose a person with a disease, gram stains all the time. They do like 50 gram stains a night. Why is this such a big deal?
Because you want to know if it's positive or negative.
Yeah, first off, person comes to you with a disease. If you gram stain it, 100% of the bacteria are either gram positive or negative. I can gram stain it and be like, it's gram positive, so I know 50% of the possibilities that this disease can be are gone. Does that make sense? Just by looking at it and saying it's purple, I already cut in half all of the choices. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And then you can learn a bunch of different things about the bacteria because remember, gram positive and negative are really different in what they do. And then second of all, we gram stain because if I just took a swab of your throat and I put it on a slide, would I see anything?
No. Well.
No, you wouldn't. It's translucent. So first of all, I want to see it, and then also I can learn a lot about it just by doing a couple steps. Is that okay? So gram stain is like, if you guys go into microbiology, you do the gram stain like until you can like do it with your eyes closed because it's just something you do so much. So let's review gram positive versus negative. Tell me what you know.
Thick peptidoglycan.
Thick peptidoglycan.
No outer membrane.
No outer membrane.
And then just the cytoplasm.
Just the cytoplasm?
Or the
Cytoplasmic
the
membrane.
Yeah. And I tell people, when you get into upper level classes, it has a specific name. But for this class, anything with membrane, cytoplasmic membrane, plasma membrane, I usually just call it lipid membrane, so I'm not throwing all these different membranes at you, and you're like, what are the differences? So I'm just going to write LM for lipid membrane. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Don't think if he says a different kind of membrane, it's a completely different structure, because it doesn't really matter right now. Okay, gram negative.
outer membrane.
Okay, it has an outer membrane. Again, I'm just going to call it a lipid membrane.
And really thin peptidoglycan.
Thin peptidoglycan.
And then the other membrane.
Yeah, so another lipid membrane. Just to put it in perspective, you don't need to know these numbers, but it just helps. The layers of peptidoglycan and gram positive, there are 30 of them. and gram-negative, there's 1. So it's a very big difference, a lot bigger than my picture. Okay. And that's really important for the gram stain. That's like the key to the gram stain. Okay, I want to go a little deeper. Peptidoglycan, what is it made out of?
M&G sugars.
Yeah, but even more broad than that. We have sugars and we have proteins. Okay? How many different kinds of sugars?
2.
2. And what are their names? M and G. So the way I would say it is there are 2 repeating sugars. Okay? He likes, you say 2 and then repeating because it goes Mg, Mg, Mg. And don't say those are proteins, right? Those are the sugars. Okay, what are we missing?
Proteins.
The proteins. There's a big fancy name for them.
Interbridges.
That's the second part. Something something
I
interbridges.
can never remember the name.
Okay, what are proteins made out of? Do you guys know? Amino acids?
Yeah.
And how many of them are there?
Tons.
Yeah, there are 20 possible amino acids, but right here, there's a chain of 4 of them. So, tetra for 4. What are these? Proteins or sugars?
Proteins.
So, tetrapeptide. And then think, is it in between or on the outside?
In between.
So, tetrapeptide inter,
Bridges.
and then bridges. Because it's like, I think you have the 2 sugars and then this big gap in between, you're going to build a bridge. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So tetrapeptide interbridges. Is that a good review? Do you guys feel better? There are a couple more things I want to talk about with this before we get into the steps. But anything stick out here that isn't a review?